Amara wasn't just a waitress, she was the heart and soul of the bustling restaurant, weaving between tables with an effortless grace that belied the chaos of her double shifts. Her smile never wavered, even when her feet ached and her apron pockets were filled with receipts and stray pens. She didn't just take orders, she listened, laughed, and often lightened the heavy hearts of her customers. But beneath her calm exterior, life was anything but easy. At home, a stack of unpaid bills sat ominously on her kitchen counter, a constant reminder of her responsibilities. She was a single mother of two, with dreams of providing her children with a better life, dreams that felt increasingly out of reach as the days blurred into one long shift. Amara wasn't bitter, though. She believed in hard work and kindness, and no matter how tough life got, she never let it strip her of her dignity. The restaurant she worked at wasn't just any place. It was a hotspot for the elite. Politicians, actors, and CEOs frequented the establishment, often making headlines just for being spotted there. Amara had served them all, from high-maintenance celebrities to power-hungry executives, and she'd learned to navigate their quirks with finesse. But none of those encounters prepared her for what would happen on one seemingly ordinary Tuesday evening. The night started like any other. The clinking of silverware, the low hum of conversation, and the distant sound of jazz filled the air. Amara was rushing between tables, balancing trays with the precision of a seasoned pro, when a hush fell over the room. Heads turned, whispers began, and phones discreetly emerged from pockets to capture the moment. Amara glanced toward the entrance, curious about the commotion. There he was, Elon Musk. The man whose name was synonymous with innovation and impossibility had walked into the restaurant, flanked by a small group of people. His presence was magnetic, commanding attention without him even trying. For a brief moment, Amara's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't starstruck, she didn't have time to be. Instead, she thought about how this one table could mean big tips, enough to buy her kids those new shoes they needed or maybe even cover a portion of the electric bill that was long overdue. She took a deep breath, adjusted her apron, and walked toward the table with her notepad ready. As she approached, she noticed something most people wouldn't. Elon wasn't the larger-than-life persona the media portrayed. He seemed human. He laughed softly with his companions, his demeanor relaxed yet attentive. Amara introduced herself with her usual warmth, but she could sense a subtle shift in the air. This wasn't going to be an ordinary night. Little did she know, the choices she would make during this encounter would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. Amara thought she was simply doing her job, but fate had other plans. And by the end of it all, she would come to realize that one moment of integrity could ripple into something far greater than she ever imagined. The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted as Elon Musk and his group settled into their seats. The staff buzzed with nervous energy, stealing glances at the table while whispering among themselves. Amara had just finished taking their drink orders when Mr. Carson, the restaurant owner, called her into the back office. Mr. Carson was a man who valued profit above all else. His tailored suit and gold cufflinks screamed wealth, but his sharp tone and cold demeanor left no room for warmth. Amara stood before him, already sensing that this conversation wouldn't end well. "Listen up," Mr. Carson began, his voice low and calculating. "I want you to add a little surcharge to Musk's bill. Let's see if he even notices. And don't go bending over backward for him. Keep the portion small, and no freebies. Got it?" Amara's stomach churned. She had dealt with her fair share of difficult bosses, but this felt different. Elon Musk might be a billionaire, but he was still a paying customer. And more importantly, Amara's conscience wouldn't let her treat anyone unfairly. "I can't do that, Mr. Carson," she said firmly but respectfully. "It's not right." Mr. Carson's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? Are you questioning my authority in my own restaurant? I'm just saying that all customers deserve to be treated with respect, no matter who they are," Amara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The tension in the room was palpable. Mr. Carson leaned forward, his face inches from hers. "You'll do as you're told, or you'll find yourself out of a job. Your choice." Amara didn't hesitate. Then I guess I'll do it my way. Returning to the dining area, Amara pushed aside the knot in her stomach and focused on doing what she did best. She served Elon and his guests with her signature warmth and professionalism, ensuring every detail of their experience was perfect. But Mr. Carson wasn't blind to her defiance. As the night wore on, his simmering anger boiled over. In front of the entire staff, he berated Amara, calling her insubordinate and accusing her of undermining his authority. The staff watched in stunned silence as he humiliated her, but no one dared to intervene. At the end of her shift, Amara was handed her final paycheck and told not to return. She left the restaurant with her head held high, but tears stung her eyes as she stepped into the cold night. She had lost her job for standing up for her principles. Now, she faced the terrifying question of how to explain it to her family, who depended on her. Amara trudged home, her thoughts racing with worry and self-doubt. The night air was crisp, but she barely noticed. How was she going to break the news to her children? She had worked so hard to keep the household afloat, and now, with no steady income, everything felt like it was crumbling. The sight of her modest apartment, with its dim porch light flickering, brought a fresh wave of emotion. She unlocked the door quietly, not wanting to wake her kids. After setting her bag down, she sank onto the worn-out couch, burying her face in her hands. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Her mind replayed the scene at the restaurant, wondering if she had made the wrong choice. Was it foolish to risk her job over something as intangible as integrity? The doubts gnawed at her, but deep down, she knew she couldn't have acted any other way. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the curtains, Amara was startled awake by the sound of her phone ringing. Groggily, she glanced at the unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. Hesitant but curious, she answered. "Hello, is this Amara?" a calm, professional voice asked. "Yes, speaking. Who's this?" "This is Claire, Mr. Musk's assistant. He asked me to reach out to you personally. Would you be available to meet him for coffee this morning? He'd like to discuss something important with you." Amara sat up straight, her heart racing. "Wait, what? Elon Musk wants to meet with me? Are you sure you have the right person?" Claire chuckled softly. "Yes, I'm sure. He was very specific. He said he was impressed with your service last night and wanted to have a conversation." Amara's mind spun. How could this be happening? Less than 24 hours ago, she had been fired in disgrace, and now one of the world's most influential men wanted to meet her. She quickly agreed, jotting down the address Claire provided. As she prepared to leave, Amara felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since the ordeal began. Whatever this meeting entailed, it was clear that her story wasn't over yet. Little did she know, the decision she had made to stand up for her values was about to change her life in ways she never imagined. Amara arrived at the small, upscale cafe that Claire had directed her to, her heart pounding in her chest. Dressed in her best, albeit modest, outfit, she stepped inside and immediately spotted Elon Musk seated at a table near the window. The morning sun poured in, casting a golden glow over the table where he sipped his coffee, reviewing something on his phone. She hesitated for a moment, still in disbelief that this meeting was actually happening. Gathering her courage, she walked over. "Mr. Musk?" she said softly. He looked up and smiled warmly. "Amara! Please have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Nervously, she sat down, unsure of what to expect. Elon leaned forward slightly, his expression earnest. "First, let me thank you for the incredible service you gave us last night. Your professionalism and kindness didn't go unnoticed." Amara smiled timidly. "It's just part of the job, Mr. Musk. I always try to do my best." He nodded thoughtfully. "I respect that. But part of the reason I wanted to meet you is that I overheard what happened between you and your manager. I saw how you handled yourself, standing firm in your principles even when it wasn't easy. That's rare, and it says a lot about your character." Amara's cheeks flushed with embarrassment and gratitude. "I didn't think anyone noticed," she admitted. "I just couldn't bring myself to do something I knew was wrong." Elon's face darkened slightly as he continued. Well, I noticed, and it wasn't just your actions that stood out. What your manager did, charging unethical fees and treating both customers and staff unfairly, is unacceptable. After I left, I made a few calls to report the restaurant anonymously. I believe people in leadership positions have a responsibility to lead with integrity, and that clearly wasn't happening there. Amara's eyes widened. You reported them? Wow. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Elon said. But I needed you to know that people like you, people who do the right thing even when no one's watching, are exactly the kind of people who make a real difference. What you did took courage, and I respect that deeply. As Elon spoke, Amara felt an unexpected wave of validation wash over her. For the first time since losing her job, she no longer questioned her decision. She hadn't just stood up for what she believed in, she had been seen, truly seen, by someone who understood the weight of her choice. Little did she know, this meeting was only the beginning of the incredible turn her life was about to take. Elon leaned back in his chair, studying Amara for a moment. Claire mentioned something else to me when I asked about your situation, he said. She told me you're supporting a family while working double shifts. That's no small feat. Amara sighed, a mix of pride and exhaustion flickering across her face. I do what I have to. My kids mean everything to me. But it's been hard. I've always dreamed of something more, like having my own cafe one day, but dreams don't pay the bills. Elon's expression softened. Why a cafe? He asked, genuinely curious. Amara's face lit up as she spoke. I love the idea of creating a space where people can come together, somewhere warm and welcoming. A place that feels like home but serves amazing coffee and food. I've always imagined it as a way to bring the community closer. Elon smiled, clearly moved by her passion. You know, when I started out, I didn't have much either. People thought I was crazy for dreaming as big as I did. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the world needs dreamers, especially those who are willing to work hard to make those dreams a reality. Amara nodded, not sure where he was going with this but captivated nonetheless. I want to help you, Elon said, his tone resolute. I want to fund your cafe. Whatever it takes to get you started, finding the perfect location, buying equipment, hiring staff, you name it. Consider it my way of saying thank you for your integrity and the example you've set for others. Amara froze, her breath catching in her throat. Wait, what? Elon chuckled at her stunned expression. I'm serious. You have a vision, and I believe in it. More importantly, I believe in you. People like you deserve a chance to succeed. Tears welled up in Amara's eyes as the gravity of his words sank in. Mr. Musk, I don't even know how to thank you. It's beyond anything I could have imagined. No thanks necessary, he said. Just promise me one thing. When your cafe is up and running, keep that same spirit you showed last night. Lead with integrity, and create the kind of place where others feel inspired to do the same. Amara nodded, overcome with emotion. In that moment, she realized that her decision to stand up for what was right hadn't just preserved her dignity. It had opened a door to a future brighter than she ever thought possible. Her dream wasn't just alive, it was about to become her reality. And all because she had the courage to stay true to herself, even when the stakes were high. Months later, Amara stood in front of her new cafe, her heart swelling with pride as she watched a vibrant, grand opening banner sway gently in the breeze. She had chosen to name the cafe Amara's Integrity, a tribute to the values that had brought her to this moment. The warm scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted from the open door, mingling with the cheerful chatter of the small crowd that had gathered for the occasion. The cafe was everything she had envisioned and more. Walls adorned with local art, cozy seating areas bathed in sunlight, and a menu crafted with care, all designed to create a space where customers felt at home. Amara had poured her heart into every detail, from sourcing ethical coffee beans to hiring a team that shared her commitment to kindness and respect. As she stood by the entrance, greeting customers and thanking friends who had come to celebrate, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. A ripple of excitement swept through the crowd as none other than Elon Musk stepped out, a warm smile on his face. "Elon," Amara said, her voice filled with emotion. "You actually came." "Of course," he replied, extending a hand to shake hers. "I wouldn't miss this for the world." Elon's presence brought an unexpected wave of media attention. Reporters snapped photos and jotted down notes, intrigued by the story of a billionaire supporting a small-town cafe with a big heart. Amara handled the attention with grace, sharing her story and emphasizing the importance of sticking to her principles, even when it seemed like the hardest choice. Inside, the cafe buzzed with energy as customers lined up to try the food and drinks that Amara and her team had worked tirelessly to perfect. The positive reviews came pouring in almost immediately, with patrons praising not just the quality of the offerings, but the welcoming atmosphere that radiated from every corner. As the day wound down and the crowd began to thin, Amara found a quiet moment to reflect. Standing behind the counter, she looked around at the cafe she had built with her own hands, made possible by her courage to stand firm in her beliefs and the unexpected generosity of a stranger who had become an ally. She thought back to the night she was fired, the sting of humiliation still fresh in her mind. At the time, it had felt like the end of everything she had worked so hard for. Yet, as she stood in her bustling cafe, surrounded by smiling faces, she realized it had been the beginning of a journey she could never have imagined. Elon approached her before leaving, holding a cup of coffee. "You've done something incredible here," he said. "This place isn't just a cafe. It's a beacon of hope for anyone who's ever been told they couldn't succeed." Tears welled up in Amara's eyes. "Thank you for believing in me," she said. "I'll never forget what you've done for me and my family." Amara's integrity quickly became more than just a cafe. It became a symbol of resilience and second chances in the community. True to her values, Amara made it a point to employ individuals who had faced challenges similar to her own, people who had been unfairly treated or needed a fresh start. One of her first hires was Maria, a single mother who had been let go from her previous job after standing up against workplace harassment. Another was Jamal, a young man who had been overlooked in job interviews due to gaps in his employment history. Amara's team was a diverse group united by shared experiences and a collective determination to succeed. The cafe's walls were soon covered with thank you notes from customers who had been touched by its story. A local artist painted a mural on one wall, depicting a phoenix rising from the ashes, symbolizing Amara's journey and the new beginnings her cafe represented. The media attention from Elon's visit continued to ripple outward, bringing in customers from nearby towns and even a few tourists who had heard the story. Despite the cafe's growing popularity, Amara remained true to her vision, keeping prices fair and ensuring that every customer felt like part of a family. One afternoon, a familiar face walked through the door, Mr. Carson, her former boss. He looked uncomfortable but approached Amara with an air of humility. "I just wanted to say, I was wrong," he admitted. "You taught me a lesson I needed to learn." Amara simply smiled. "It's never too late to do the right thing," she said, her voice kind but firm. In the years that followed, Amara's integrity continued to thrive, expanding to include a second location and a scholarship program for local students interested in hospitality. Amara often spoke at community events, sharing her story to inspire others to stand by their values, no matter how difficult the circumstances. The cafe remained a place of joy and connection, where every cup of coffee served carried with it a message of hope and resilience. Amara's children grew up proud of their mother, often helping out after school and learning the value of hard work and compassion. In the end, Amara's decision to stand up for what was right didn't just change her life, it transformed her community. And for that, she would always be grateful.